Our next speaker really needs no introduction and is our real host tonight in his city of Jerusalem. Mayor Nir Barkat has been the mayor of the city of Jerusalem since 2008. In 1988, Mayor Barkat co-founded BRM Technologies, a pioneering software house and later a venture capital firm that developed and marketed groundbreaking antivirus software that is now standard on personal computers throughout the world. So you see his background is also fitting with the Mayor Giuliani's joining of Greenberg Traurig as the chair of its cybersecurity and crisis management practice. And to the extent that Mayor Giuliani is considered America's mayor, Mayor Barkat is the mayor of the Jewish people. Please, Mayor Barkat.
There's so many distinguished guests and friends here, so I'll wrap them all by saying distinguished guests and our dear friend, Mayor Giuliani. It's an honor to be here tonight, and I was just thinking to myself, as you just said, I started with security software and became mayor. Mayor Giuliani, you started being mayor and did the whole turnaround to deal with security software. So I think what you're getting into, I know what you're getting into in terms of security software. And I remember when we started off doing antivirus software in 1988 here in Jerusalem, it was when the first computer viruses struck the Hebrew University and our computers stopped working. So we had to analyze the situation, come up with a solution. We really believed that it's not only our problem here in Jerusalem, that it's a global problem. Opened our business and started marketing our ideas throughout the global world. That was in 1988. In 1990, when Gil, Shlomo, and Marius from Checkpoint approached us, and I became chairman of Checkpoint, we realized that the world is going to open up, that the internet is going to be mainstream, and we tried to convince companies around the world that they need firewalls. They will have no choice but to connect to the global internet, and honestly, they should take some of the top cutting-edge technology coming out of Israel. Israeli military, Israeli experience. We learned, probably early in the game, that we need to come up with real out-of-the-box solutions and go global with them. Naturally, our first customers were always in New York. Since New York and Israel and Jerusalem have similar challenges, similar security challenges, same values. And so we found very strong common denominator between Jerusalem and New York, which is my second favorite city in the world, I have to admit. And we created a relationship with Americans living in New York as business people. Similarly, as mayor, we're challenged. As mayors, we're challenged with sometimes out-of-the-box challenges, especially here in Jerusalem, where unfortunately we have enemies, we have bad people around that want to hurt us, that want to hurt us physically. They want to terrorize us and derail us from normal life. Similarly, I know that the situation unfortunately was and still the same in New York. Most people don't know this, Rudy, but I just shared with Mayor Giuliani that I landed September 11, the same day, Tuesday morning. I landed in New York for a partners meeting. I had two American partners, and we were right opposite the Hudson over the 90s, overlooking Manhattan. We started our partners meeting at 8:15 in the morning, just after arriving and eating breakfast in New York, when the Twin Towers were struck by the airplanes. And I remember the people's faces. We couldn't cross the bridge to Manhattan. It took us time. We had to walk through the bridges. And I remember the faces of people. And I remember you, Rudy, leading the people, explaining to them the challenge, very optimistic, looking into the future with very, very open eyes. And your leadership struck me as something that New York needed so tremendously, so much, at the time of the attack. We unfortunately have challenges practically on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis, and we need our residents to be resilient, to believe in the future, being optimistic. We need to adopt new ideas practically on a daily basis. I have to say that from my perspective, the national government and the Prime Minister is acknowledging the challenges we have very, very swiftly. And I want to commend the Prime Minister and the whole government for listening and dealing with the situation. And I, myself as mayor, I understand very, very clearly my role as mayor is making sure that we stay on track and we create new solutions practically on a daily basis. And we indeed, if I could summarize 4 points that differentiate what was not done or not fully done in the past to what we do today, is that we are deep into offense. We learned that the best defense is offense, using the security services, the police, a joint venture made with the municipality and other forces, how to work together to articulate and find the bad guys. That's number one. The second is go after the bad guys as harsh as you can by law. Create new laws, be very aggressive with the bad guys. There's no choice but to make sure that they understand that violence and terror does not pay. Go after their roots, go after the people that are inciting, and if people are involved, make sure they pay a heavy price, including the terrorists themselves, that in the case of Jerusalem, we neutralize them on average less than 60 seconds, and 80% of them get killed on the spot, which is a very, very clear message that we don't fool around. The third point is be very good with the good guys. The majority of the public, the majority of the Arabs and the Muslims in our city are really honest and good people, and they want quality of life. They don't want crime, terror. They don't want violence because it dramatically hurts their business. And we want to develop the relationship with the good people. And last but not least, the fourth point I would make is as fast as possible go back to normal life. Unfortunately, we have an event after the forensic evidence is collected, usually an hour. We immediately go back to normal life. We don't cancel events. We move on. And we make sure that our residents understand that the terrorists want to deter our life. They want us not to go out at night. They want us to cancel events. And when they see that they're not successful doing so, they understand that we're here to stay. Internally, to integrate it into this strategy, we work very hard leveraging technology and new smart ideas. And Mayor Giuliani, I think that you coming from being mayor, understanding of how to integrate new ideas to new challenges, how to lead people to new solutions, make them buy in. You have that experience already, and now entering security software, you will find, in cybersecurity, you will find yourself at home. I understand what you're going into. I want to wish you lots of success on the business side. And I also want to share with you that for me, I remember being there in New York. You're an inspiration. I'm sure you are like that for many, many people all over the world. You're a dear friend of Israel and the Jewish people. And I want to thank you on behalf of the city of Jerusalem, on behalf of myself. God bless you. Lots of success. And next time you're here, we'll go out for dinner together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Barkat. I'm pleased to introduce Eli Groner, Director General of the Prime Minister's Office. Mayor Giuliani, Eli is also an avid sports fan, but it's the right team, so he can stay as well. Eli previously served as Israel's economic attaché to the United States in Washington, D.C. Before that, he was special advisor to the chairman of Tnuva, Israel's largest consumer packaged goods company. For several years, Eli was a consultant for McKinsey & Company, where he served the breadth of Fortune 1000 corporations around the world, as well as many of Israel's leading companies. Cybersecurity is one of the many priority areas that Eli advances in his current position in the Director General's Office of the Prime Minister. Eli, the floor is yours. Thank you.
I want to thank the World Jewish Congress for hosting us. Thank you very much. The Honorable Rudy Giuliani, Mayor Barkat, yeah, you. When you started your security enterprise in 1988, I think it's safe to say that the cyber industry has evolved, the security industry has evolved over that time. But there are certain principles that were true, that are just as true today as they were then. To succeed in security, you need to think a step ahead of your enemy. You need to be very thoughtful, and you need to have the courage of conviction. It's a real thrill for me to be here today to honor the Honorable Mayor Giuliani, because you are a man of courage, of conviction, and of truth. And those are characteristics that are unfortunately in short supply, but they're central for the future of our society and for our world. Now, you're entering a world of cybersecurity, and that leads me to believe that you'll be spending a lot more time here in Israel, because I want to give you all a mind-boggling statistic. In 2014, 10% of the world's global investment in cybersecurity was in Israel. Now think about that. We're roughly 0.1% of the world's population, yet 10% of the global investment in the world. Wait a second. Mayor Barkat, that's called a buildup. 2015, the number doubled, 20%. So, that's 200 times above our weight. We're punching 200 times above our weight class. Think about that. So if you're running the global cyber practice, I expect to see you a lot more often here on this side of the world. It's important to understand humankind has been through a number of revolutions, and we're living through another one now. It's called the cyber revolution. And the cyber revolution is due to the convergence of unthinkable computing power and a world that's increasingly completely interconnected. Now, this presents unprecedented opportunities for our economies, for our societies, for our law firms. But at the same time, we've witnessed the proliferation of threats, of compromising of privacy, of economic activity, national security. And with this in mind, Israel has made it a top priority to be a world leader in cybersecurity, not just in 2016, but one of our overarching strategies is that Israel cannot afford not to be a global leader in cybersecurity in 2026 and 2036. And towards that end, we've put together a very, very strategic plan to ensure that we can become an incubator for the globe's, for the world's cyber challenges. We've done three things. First of all, we've taken our military, we're in the process, I'm overseeing the process right now, of moving many of our core military bases from the center of the country to the Negev, to the south. These are some of our top intelligence units, communications units. We're moving them, we're picking up and moving them. So Minister Gamliel said earlier that Ben-Gurion's vision of making the desert bloom, and it's true that we're trying to realize that, but instead of doing it with failed textile plants, we've decided to do it with arguably the world's most important industry, or one of the world's most important industries. But that's not enough. We've also done something that the Prime Minister and I are very resistant to do, but we've made an exception for cyber. We passed legislation a few months ago where we're actually giving cyber companies very significant tax breaks if they set up operations in Beersheba. It's very important for us to create this ecosystem. You bring the military talent, you give major tax breaks to companies setting up operations there, and we've created a partnership with Ben-Gurion University, right? The namesake of the visionary who is going to make the desert bloom. And by creating that ecosystem, we are very focused on making Beersheba not only the capital of the South, but we want to make it one of the world capitals for cybersecurity. I would only end by saying that there are certain eternal truths, and it's not enough. It's really not enough, even though all these policy decisions we've made and are implementing. At the end of the day, what rules the day are the principles I cited for you earlier: courage, conviction, truth. We live in a very nasty neighborhood over here. Things could get worse before they get better. It's a rough, rough, rough neck of the woods. But if we stand true to those principles that you provided such inspiration for us with, courage, conviction, truth, I know that in the end, those principles, those values will reign supreme, and the more we can stick to them, and the more you stick to them, and the more we stick to each other in your new role, I think the future will be better than our past. Thanks very much.